Grief is often imagined as an explosion, sobbing, collapse, visible devastation. But more often, it is something quieter and more disorienting. It is an absence made active. It is the way the world continues to move forward without asking if you're ready. The film being discussed today understands grief not as a wound that bleeds, but as a condition of living in the aftermath, of existing in a space where someone should still be present, yet isn't. The film is less about mourning death than about surviving continuation. Hello friends, and welcome back to Double Feature Friday. Throughout the film Personal Shopper, our protagonist, Maureen, exists in a suspended state. Her twin brother's death has fractured time for her. Life no longer unfolds forward, but sideways. She does not grieve through ritual or release. Instead, she waits. She lingers in rooms that feel unfinished, in conversations that never feel fully resolved, in a life that feels provisional, as though she is only occupying it temporarily until something, or someone, gives her permission to move on. Psychologically, this is complicated grief, a refusal not born from denial, but from loyalty. To accept his absence would feel like abandoning him. The film externalizes this psychological state through its haunting ambiguity. The question of whether Maureen is being contacted by the dead is never definitively answered, though it is visually implied, because the uncertainty mirrors her internal conflict. When we lose someone deeply connected to us, especially a twin, a mirror of the self, the boundary between internal longing and external reality blurs. The mind becomes desperate for signs, patterns, messages. Grief sharpens perception and distorts it at the same time. Every vibration of a phone, every creak in a hallway, every unexplained sensation becomes charged with meaning. Not because the dead are necessarily speaking, but because the living cannot bear the silence. Maureen's job as a personal shopper is crucial to this psychological reading. She is constantly selecting objects for someone else's body, someone else's identity. She curates a life that she does not inhabit. This displacement mirrors her emotional state. She is present, but never fully embodied. Trauma often produces this kind of disassociation, a sense of observing life rather than participating in it. She moves through luxury and beauty with numb detachment, as if these objects belong to a parallel world that she is no longer sure she deserves to exist in. The anonymous text messages that begin to intrude upon her life function as both threat and comfort. Psychologically, they represent the mind's attempt to reestablish connection, any connection, in the void left by her loss. The sender could be supernatural, predatory, or imaginary, but that ambiguity is entirely the point. Grief does not care where meaning comes from, only that it arrives. The messages ask questions Maureen cannot answer herself. Who are you without the person you lost? What do you want now? Are you still alive or just surviving? What makes Personal Shopper so unsettling is that it refuses the comfort of resolution. There's no clean exorcism, no clear villain, no triumphant closure. This mirrors real grief, which rarely offers narrative satisfaction. Loss does not build toward catharsis, it erodes certainty. The film understands that acceptance is not a breakthrough moment, but a slow, almost imperceptible shift, a recalibration of identity. Acceptance does not mean forgetting. It means learning to carry the absence without letting it entirely define every movement forward. Maureen's journey is not about proving the existence of the afterlife, but about confronting the possibility that there may be no final answers. One of grief's most painful truths is that the dead may not come back to explain themselves, to reassure us, to tell us it's okay to continue. We must decide, without confirmation, whether we are allowed to live fully again. This is the quiet cruelty of being left behind. The responsibility of continuation falls entirely on us as the survivors. By the film's end, Maureen is still uncertain, but she is different. She has not conquered her grief. She has learned to exist alongside it. Psychologically, this is profound. Healing is often framed as closure, but closure suggests an ending. Grief does not end. It integrates. It becomes part of the self's architecture. The goal is not to eliminate the ache, but to just stop orbiting it. Personal Shopper is ultimately a film about the terrifying freedom that follows loss. When the person who anchored you disappears, the world becomes both empty and infinite. Every choice feels heavier because there is no longer someone watching from the sidelines, no shared narrative to validate your path. Acceptance, in this context, is not peace. It's permission. Permission to step forward even when you are unsure. Permission to stop waiting for signs that may never come. Permission to exist as a self no longer defined by who is missing. In portraying grief as an unresolved conversation, rather than some complete arc, the film captures something deeply human. The way loss rewrites our relationship with reality itself. We do not simply lose people. We lose versions of ourselves that only existed in their presence. And learning to live after that loss is not about moving on. It's about learning how to remain. If you're anything like me, film doesn't end when the credits roll. The best stories linger. They follow you home. They live in your head long after the screen fades to black. That's why I'm proud to partner with Audible. Audible isn't just audiobooks. It's an entire library of storytelling. Horror, noir, true crime, sci-fi, psychological thrillers, Audible original podcasts. The kinds of narratives we explore here on Embrace the Film don't stop at cinema. On Audible, you can dive into the novels that inspire your favorite film, explore exclusive original dramas, and experience immersive audio productions that feel as cinematic as anything you'd see in a theater. If you love the psychological tension of a slow burn thriller, or the creeping dread of analog horror, Audible lets you carry that atmosphere with you on late night drives, long walks, or those quiet hours when the world feels just a little too still. It's storytelling without a screen, and sometimes that makes it even more intimate, because now the images have to come from you. You can start listening today and get a free trial by using the link in the description. It's one of the best ways to support the channel while discovering your next obsession. Close your eyes, press play, and let the story unfold with Audible. Before even naming the next film of the day, it's important to understand the emotional terrain it occupies. This isn't a story built around spectacle or revelation, but around recognition. The quiet, uneasy feeling of seeing your own experiences reflected back at you with uncomfortable clarity. The weight of the disrespect, the normalization of being diminished, the careful endurance mistaken for professionalism, all of it converges into a single, unbroken day that becomes impossible to look away from. It's at this point, once the personal and the psychological have fully intersected, that the assistant enters the conversation. Not as a distant critique of the industry, but as an unflinching mirror held up to it.
What can we do?
Do about what?
There are films you admire from a distance, and then there are films that feel like they are watching you. The Assistant didn't feel like a story unfolding on a screen. It felt like someone had quietly documented a version of my own internal life, and projected it back at me without warning. Not the dramatic parts, not the moments you tell other people about, the small, humiliating ones, the ones that you end up normalizing just to survive. What hurt most wasn't the abuse the film implies. It was the disrespect it assumes as ordinary. The way belittlement is treated as part of the job description. The way you are expected to absorb indignities with gratitude because proximity to the industry is supposed to be its own reward. Watching Jane move through her day, I felt that familiar tightening in my chest. The recognition of what it feels like to be present but unseen. Necessary but disposable. The film industry sells itself as a dream factory, but working inside it often feels like being constantly reminded that you are lucky just to be tolerated. You learn quickly that your time isn't valuable, your comfort is negotiable, and your boundaries are inconvenient. The assistant captures that psychological imbalance perfectly. The sense that everyone above you is important, and everyone at your level is interchangeable. You're not a person, you're a function. What makes this kind of disrespect so psychologically corrosive is how subtle it is. No one has to scream at you. No one has to say you're worthless. The message is delivered through omission, through emails unanswered, instructions barked without eye contact, blame assigned reflexively downward. You begin to internalize the hierarchy, adjusting your posture, your voice, your expectations until you are smaller without remembering when you chose to shrink. Watching the film, I recognize the particular exhaustion that comes from constant self-monitoring. The fear of making a mistake that confirms what they already seem to believe about you. The way your inner voice starts to mirror the industry's tone. Cold, impatient, dismissive. Over time, the belittlement stops needing an external source. You carry it with you. You enforce it on yourself. The assistant's isolation in the film felt painfully familiar. Not because no one else is around, but because no one else is available. Everyone is busy chasing something. Advancement, approval, survival. There's an unspoken agreement not to acknowledge how dehumanizing it all feels. To complain is to reveal weakness. To name the harm is to risk being labeled difficult. Silence becomes the price of continued access. What struck me hardest was how little the film exaggerates. This isn't satire. This is tone-perfect realism. The industry doesn't need villains. It has momentum. It runs on the assumption that someone will always be willing to endure a little more disrespect for a chance of belonging. And when you are inside that system, you start confusing endurance with strength. You tell yourself, this is how it works. You tell yourself, you can make it. You tell yourself, it'll be worth it. But watching The Assistant, I felt something crack. Not because the film revealed anything new, but because it refused to dress the experience up as noble. There is no romance here. No promise that suffering leads to success. Just the slow accumulation of moments that teach you where you rank. The film doesn't ask you to be inspired. It asks you to sit with the cost. What lingers after the credits isn't anger, it's grief. Grief for the version of yourself that entered the industry believing respect was baseline, not a privilege to be earned through silence. Grief for how easy it is to accept mistreatment when it's packaged as opportunity. Grief for how long it takes to realize that being allowed in the room doesn't mean you are valued there. The Assistant hits close to home because it doesn't depict a breaking point. It depicts a continuation. Another day, another compromise, another quiet swallowing of self-respect. And maybe that's the most honest thing it could have done. Because for many of us, the damage wasn't done in one catastrophic moment. It's done gradually, professionally, politely. This film doesn't just remind me how the industry can treat you. It reminds me how easily you can start believing that you deserve it. Well, friends, that's gonna be all for now. If you are interested in this film, I urge you to check it out for yourself and formulate your own thoughts and opinions about it. I hope you come share those thoughts and opinions in the comments. Let me know if there are any movies that you would like to see discussed on this channel. I always love to hear from you guys, and I do my best to try and respond to everyone. As always, I've put a link down in the description to a physical copy of this film, if one exists, that you can add to your collection. Using that link helps out the channel, and that's always appreciated. If you like this video, I urge you to give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you aren't already. I know that some of you watching aren't subscribed, so help out the channel and subscribe. If you'd like to go the extra mile and support the channel even more, we do have a couple options for you to do so. You can join us on Patreon, where you can get yourself early access to future videos, Patreon exclusive content, and access to the ETF Digital Archive. We get a lot of compliments about the VHS collection that you guys see in the background of our videos. Well, we've been hard at work slowly digitizing the collection and creating a place where we can share it with all of you. thanks to the help of the Plex platform, we can now do just that. This is our way of doing our part in helping preserve that gritty, nostalgic VHS look and feeling before it's gone forever. With Plex, you can stream our VHS collection from anywhere at any time. It's basically like having a streaming service for VHS, which I think is pretty cool. Additionally, if you're tired of adding to your growing list of monthly subscriptions, you can help support the channel on Ko-Fi, where you can drop a single tip, the cost of a cup of coffee, or less. No pressure, no tiers required. But with all of the same monthly benefits that you will find on Patreon offered as well. We also have a Mercari store where you can go and get yourself a little piece of the ETF archive. While collecting VHS, Blu-rays, and DVDs over many years, we wind up with lots of duplicates, and we unfortunately can't store them all. So on our Mercari shop, we have all of those for sale. Purchasing those not only expands your collection, but makes room for us to expand ours. All the links for everything are down in the description. Until next time, stay safe. And as always, thanks for watching.